Hey, good morning, folks. It's Pastor Stephen back again with another No Frills daily devotional. And today's topic, well, it's more of a question. It's where are you running? All right. And what got me thinking about this idea is how I don't know if you know this or not, but as humans, we have this tendency to not want to deal with our stuff. We don't like to face consequences for bad choices. We don't like to deal with root issues that are causing us to sin in our lives. Rather, what we like to do is just kind of ignore them, pretend they don't exist, and run away from them in times of trouble. And so I got thinking about that, and in this idea of where are you running, I have a question for you this morning, all right, that I want you to reflect on. What or who do you turn to when life becomes difficult or disaster strikes? All right, so what or who do you run to when bad things happen in your life? Okay, and so let me kind of unpack that because we tend to revert to familiarity whenever we face difficult situations or have to face a difficult circumstance or a problem in our lives. When we're facing trouble, we tend to revert to familiarity. Okay, and I'm going to try to unpack that a little bit more with scripture here. And so this is I'm going to be reading from Jeremiah, and I'm in chapter 41. And I'm going to read verses 17 through 18 here. And I better set the context a little bit, okay? So the Israelites are dealing with this outside force known as the Babylonians, all right? So the Babylonians come in, they destroy Jerusalem, they deport all the people that are wealthy and capable of fighting and stuff like that. They take them all the way back to Babylon. But then they leave this small remnant of Israelites in the land of Judah, and they set up a governor over them. And what happened is this band of rebels rose up and assassinated this governor that King Nebuchadnezzar had appointed, and then this other band uh, basically assassinated that other band, right? And so there's disobedience has been kind of spiraling out of control, all right? And so that's where this picks up. And they went on, so this band of rebels here, they went on stopping at Gareth Kimham near Bethlehem on their way to Egypt to escape the Babylonians. They were afraid of them because Ishmael, son of Netaniah, had killed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, whom the king of Babylon had appointed as governor over the land. And so I know there was a lot of weird names there for just a second, but hopefully you get the context is this group killed this group, and now this group killed this group, and now they are on the run. And did you hear where they were running to? They were running on their way to Egypt. Now, why is Egypt standing out to me? Well, think about Egypt for just a second and the history of the Israelites. What do you know about Egypt? Oh, yeah, they were in slavery in Egypt. They had been a conquered people group in Egypt for many, many, many years. They served in slavery until this guy, Moses, got a word from the Lord and brought them out of Egypt into the promised land, which they're now having to run away from because they messed up, and the Babylonians, they're worried about what the Babylonians are going to do. So guess where they're running back to? Egypt, right? And fear has them on the run again, right? And it's this idea, and I read that and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you going to Egypt? Don't you remember what Egypt had in store for you? Slavery. It had slavery in store for you. But here's the deal. We tend to revert to familiarity in times of trouble, where when we know we've messed up, when we've done something wrong, instead of facing what the consequences are for our actions, we tend to run towards something that is familiar to us. And so what we do, we look to sin. Okay, let me just dive in here. We look to sin for comfort in times of trouble, where maybe we say, I'm never going to do this again. I don't know what your this is. And then the first moment you find yourself in a struggle, what do you find yourself doing? The this thing that you said you were never gonna do. And that's what the Israelites are doing. They left Egypt. They got freed from Egypt. They've been away from Egypt for hundreds of years. And now what are they doing? They are running right back there. Why? Because fear has them on the run and Egypt is familiar to them. And so we don't like to face, okay? We don't like to face the real issues in our lives that we struggle with. Okay. And what God is wanting them to do, He's wanting this remnant of Israelites, He's wanting them to stay in the land. Why? Because He wants them to deal with their stuff and He wants to help them to deal with their stuff where He's called them to be, but they don't want to deal with their stuff. And you and I, we don't want to deal with our stuff. And so we find ourselves running back to things, running back to people we know we shouldn't run to. We know we shouldn't do that. We know we shouldn't go to that person. We know we shouldn't go to that thing. We shouldn't do that thing to seek comfort. But that's what we do. We find ourselves running back into something like slavery, something like sin in times of trouble. We try to run away from it, right? We try to run away from the consequences, from the real issues by filling our life with distractions that ultimately are going to lead to our destruction. So, what is it? Who or what do you turn to when life becomes difficult or disaster strikes? Okay. And we gotta change that. We gotta change who or what we're running to in those moments of trouble. It's time to start to plant new seeds, right? Because we revert to whatever we're familiar with. Okay. And so it's time to sow new seeds of familiarity. It's time to create new fortresses in our lives that we can run to whenever disaster strikes. Hey, you guys, have an awesome, awesome day and be blessed.